Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Yvonne Rohrbacher, and let's queer up business. What will the end of TikTok mean to the queer community? A Supreme Court majority seems inclined to uphold the TikTok ban over national security concerns. During oral arguments, justices focused on TikTok's ties to China, emphasizing foreign control risks over First Amendment rights. Chief Justice John Roberts dismissed TikTok's free speech defense, stating they're not fine with a foreign adversary, as they've determined it is. Gathering all this information about the 170 million people who use TikTok, Justice Brett Kavanaugh highlighted national security threats, citing risks of espionage and manipulation by China. Justice Neil Gorsuch, however, raised concerns about the ban's impact on free expression, asking if counter-speech could suffice. Unless the court intervenes, the law takes effect on January 19th, potentially removing TikTok from app stores. Activists point out that the potential ban of TikTok could have several significant impacts on the queer community, both positive and negative. These include a suggested loss of LGBTQ visibility and advocacy. They point out that TikTok has become an important space for LGBTQ individuals to express themselves, share their stories, and find community. Another key issue suggests that TikTok is important for LGBTQ support and resources. A ban might deprive some queer users of access to advice, mental health resources, and a sense of belonging. Yeah, to me, I've been watching and following this story a lot. And it seems to me that popular opinion is sometimes attempting to supersede common sense and people in the government that actually know what they're doing, which is not everyone, I admit, but there are some. Yeah. And I listened to a piece on CNN yesterday that implied that most government officials and most of the business people involved in this situation don't think the TikTok users, like almost any of them, really understand what's going on or why. Mm-hmm. That they're going to pick up their phone one day 6 months from now and go, what happened? My TikTok doesn't really work anymore. Mm-hmm. And they're not following this. They don't understand why there's been a concern all this time. But as you guys probably know, because you're more informed than most, let's face it, I'm with a smart group here. 4 years ago, it was then President Trump that had this law passed and started this ball rolling. Mm-hmm. And maybe even more confusing to the people that maybe aren't going to pay attention anyway, he has changed his mind now. Just recently, in the last week or two, when I read some of it, he actually filed a brief with the Supreme Court stating that he would like to delay the January 19th deadline for banning TikTok, which has been the deadline for a couple of years now, since the law got passed, because I'm going to try to quote closely to what a lot of news anchors were making fun of in terms of the prelude or the opening to this brief that he wrote. He didn't write it. He definitely wrote this part. President Trump is the only person in the world who would be able to negotiate a satisfactory settlement for both sides. Waiting for President Trump to be in office and take care of this issue is a much better idea than having it go forward at this time.
Oh, good grief.
I'm dead serious.
He's the only.
It was like my dear leader. It was almost like a my dear leader North Korean ode to himself.
Well, it's like he's the only one that can do anything.
Yeah, and the bottom line is
he knows more about health than the Surgeon General. He knows more about flying a plane than a pilot. He knows about everything than the experts.
So there are some reasons why he might have changed his mind. One is he has something like 15 million followers now on TikTok, and he feels that it drove his youth vote. Mm-hmm. Another is Elon Musk is one of the people that's being rumored and purported to consider buying TikTok. The other one is Kevin Leary from Shark Tank has teamed up with a guy named McCourt, and they have an organization, the People's something. Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. But they have actually gotten investors and put in a bid where Mr. Musk has not at this point. But if Mr. Musk is interested at all in purchasing it, and Mr. Trump has benefited from TikTok, I can see why he might write that brief, but the Supreme Court's not going for it. And I personally think they have good reason not to go for it. We've got
He also got a large donation to his campaign from them.
Yes.
From
at the last minute.
Yes.
Look what happened when Mr. Musk took over Twitter.
Exactly.
I mean, it became like a dump fire of like hatred and
well, Facebook is becoming that too. And although I have kind of enjoyed seeing all those fake stories about Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes.
You know, it's like, come on, you know.
Anytime people use national security as a kind of, a clickbait or something.
Yeah.
Like this has decades and decades of history. That's how the Lavender Scare happened in the 50s and beyond. That is,
absolutely.
You could taint something as just being a kind of threat to national security, and it completely shuts down the conversation. You could associate with communism, you could associate with terrorism, you could associate in ways that just kind of entirely silence and censor and very much are the kind of tools of fascist regimes. Like there's no unclear term.
But in this case, we've gotten way too close to China. In 1972, I know I'm being old, when Nixon went to China and said, hey, let's open up relations a little bit, by 79, we were doing business with them. And today, they own shit in the United States that you guys would be appalled about, okay?
Yeah, totally.
So here's an example of the data. There are two really problems with this, and one of them is about them having our data, right?
Which
in China,
be
because the Chinese government owns most of every Chinese company.
Yes.
That is how they work, okay? So they own our data, right? So they have already shown exactly what this suit is about by sending out messages to all the American TikTok users asking them to lobby against the law. And we're like, okay, is this not an example of exactly why we don't want them to have this information?
Right.
It's a danger. I hear it, but it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
and they don't allow our products like this to be in their country.
They're not even allowed to use TikTok in China.
But I mean,
they're not.
Many communist countries have banned, of course, the use of TikTok or Facebook and Instagram and all of these platforms. So why are we being so open to allowing a foreign, adversary, not just foreign-owned, a foreign adversary?
Literally.
This kind of is going in line with, they just blocked this deal for U.S. steel to be sold.
Exactly.
But to Japan, who is an ally, and even so, we're blocking a sale to an ally, and who was not always an ally.
No.
So
we're in bed with China.
But we're letting yes, exactly.
And they steal from us on a daily basis. Technology, information, you name it.
I want to take it back a little bit to what is the impact to the queer community. So
thank you.
Understanding that this is a complicated subject. There needs to be a way that we as leaders, I mean, I'm just talking about us here in this little location, but, across the country need to look at this and try and find solutions.
Agreed.
Because if TikTok goes away, I mean, Blue Sky came as a response to Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'm on it, and I hope everybody else here is on it. And, if we are a very powerful community, and if we can focus on a unified goal, we won't need TikTok. We can make sure that we'll
find our space.
It's not an institution. It's like 7 years old. I mean,
I mean,
we can do better.
Opportunities for these young people to find the resources.
I think that's a really good argument.
I agree, and that's to me something that's only 7 years old. Letting the millions of people who are enjoying using it be the ones that decide whether or not it's a good idea to keep it.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Right
yeah.
Well, if TikTok goes away, at least we still have Temu and Shein.
Yeah.
Oh my God! When I was in Spain this fall, Temu somehow was sending me Asian pornography ads on my Facebook feed that I had never seen and never will see when I come home. But when I tracked them back, that was who was doing it. Isn't that weird? Okay, sorry.
Okay. Focus.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today.
Sure was.
There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.